Welcome back from lunch, everyone, and let's reconvene. Before I turn to President Cross to discuss the governor's budget proposal, I just want to say I'm so appreciative of the investment that was proposed for the UW system last week. We also appreciate the positive reception UW system's budget is receiving in the Capitol. President Cross, tell us more.
As President Bailing just noted, Governor Evers announced his biennial budget last week. And we are pleased to say that the funding proposed in his budget closely aligns with our overall budget proposal that was adopted by the board last year. It is clear the governor shares our belief that higher education is vital to growing Wisconsin's talent pipeline, improving lives, and providing Wisconsinites opportunities to earn higher wages. We applaud his commitment to the UW system. The governor's budget proposes to fund the tuition freeze while increasing and accelerating our capacity building initiatives, which are focused on supporting high demand programs and student success. Investment in these capacity building initiatives will provide a significant return on investment and help build a better future for the people of Wisconsin. The governor's proposed budget also provides targeted investment to help address our state's nursing shortage, to enhance student support services at our two-year campuses, and to expand Extension's presence in rural Wisconsin. The governor's budget also proposes a 2% salary increase in each year of the biennium for our employees, beginning in January of each of those years. This funding, combined with the salary increases we received in the last state budget, will help keep us more competitive in the recruitment and retention of faculty and staff. We strongly urge legislators to support continued investment in our employees. As recent news reports have pointed out, if compensation for the UW system faculty and staff continues to lag our peers, it will result in the loss of invaluable talent critical to student success. Some of that talent was on display this morning with Dr. Dempsey. On the capital side, and we just got word, obviously the governor just announced that a little bit ago. Governor Evers announced this morning in Eau Claire his plan to bring forth 1.075 or almost 1.1 billion in infrastructure improvements to the UW system. That's 15 major projects. In addition, he's put $1 million for 5 pre-planning that we had in the pre-enumeration category, $5 million for the pre-planning or planning for projects that we had listed to be pre-enumerated. This represents, this 1.1 billion represents about almost half, it's about 40% of a total of 2.5 billion he's put forward in his budget. So obviously there will be challenges to whether or not the university should secure that much. And that challenge is ours to help address and help secure support for in the legislature, which, by the way, has been positive so far. Legislators on both sides of the aisle have been very supportive of investing in the university's infrastructure. And they particularly appreciate our emphasis on rebuilding, remodeling, renovating, repairing, whatever words you want to use. Most of our request was focused on those kinds of activities. So we're very pleased with this budget, the capital budget the governor has put forward. Governor Evers' budget also focuses on financial aid and student debt. And you heard a little bit about student success this morning. This is another piece of that. Continues to expand this, and he has proposed a $9 million increase in student financial aid over the biennium. Right now, the governor's budget is before the legislature, so we know there will be a robust debate on this budget, but we trust that the governor and legislators understand that a significant investment in higher education, in particular the University of Wisconsin, helps advance our shared priorities of growing the talent pipeline, improving lives, and providing the opportunity for families and individuals to earn higher wages. We're pleased to report that our budget proposal has received a very positive response from both Republicans and Democrats so far. Of course, now the fun begins, right? We look forward to working with the governor, to legislators, our stakeholders in the private and public sectors, our faculty, our staff, and our students to advance our shared priorities. President Bailey?
Thank you, President Cross. And I would just note, since the governor's presentation this morning in Eau Claire at 9:15, our staff has already pulled together a two-page analysis. So Jess Lathrop will pass that out now. And a thank you to our staff for working so quickly. Well done and thank you. Moving on to item number 8 on the agenda. Next, we'll have a presentation and discussion on higher education talent development initiatives. President Cross, do you have a few words to add to this?
Yes, thank you, Regent President Bailing. So first, just a little bit of context. The combination of Wisconsin's continued economic strength and low unemployment numbers is causing increased demand for highly skilled graduates. Experts tell us that many positions are going unfilled across a broad range of employment categories. At the same time, state employers are finding the worker shortage impacts their capacity for business growth. This challenge directly aligns with the UW system's effort to more closely align the resources of the university with the needs of the state. To meet the demands of employers, as well as the interest of the workforce, we must do our part to get more graduates successfully into the talent pipeline. Our discussion today, truly an extension of this morning's discussion, will focus on the collaborative efforts to strengthen the development of that talent, as well as to attract talent and retain it. Rebecca DeShane is our joint liaison for talent development. Attracting talent and connecting talent with Wisconsin employers and opportunities is Rebecca's primary focus. So Rebecca, please share with us an overview of the work you do. Rebecca DeShane, please.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to share with you. It will be an abridged version of what I generally share with folks across the state as it relates to, see, they're calling to find out more about it already. I appreciate that, Regent. So we have this great opportunity. I appreciate being a liaison both with WEDC, where I've been for almost 8 years, and now with UW System. Having been in this role for over a year now, there's really a lot of opportunities for us to connect what we're doing from the state's talent attraction standpoint, what we're doing as there's organizations across the state working on talent and connecting them with that talent pipeline that we have, especially here through the system and at the great campuses that we have. So I'm going to share a little bit about that and then look forward to the opportunity for more discussion. So first I'm going to talk about, and you may have seen some of this already, but the state last January launched a $1 million talent marketing campaign in Chicago region, really about expanding perceptions. We know all about the great state of Wisconsin. If you go outside, these are generally the perceptions they have. If you look outside today, some of them are still true. But we have more than this in Wisconsin, and we wanted to make sure that people were aware of our career opportunities and the high quality of life that we have here as well. And from that expanded the Think, Make, Happen in Wisconsin, so staying on the in Wisconsin theme that we have here. And we launched 3 planks that we wanted to target in our messaging for Midwest millennials, alumni, and transitioning service members in our armed forces. So I'll go through a few of those very briefly for you, and we can talk more later as you have questions. But the first one, again, we launched in Chicago last January. We did pre and post surveys going into that market to talk about quality of life, really talking about how you have a better cost of living here in the state of Wisconsin, lower commute times, things of that nature. And we saw a very positive response to that. The thing that I'd like to point out here is that nearly 6 percentage points of those we surveyed said they would now consider moving to Wisconsin. So we have a great opportunity to attract people to fill those workforce gaps that we have, not only with our talent here, but bringing more people in. With some additional funding that we received last year, we have expanded from the Chicago market into 12 additional markets. Again, we're in the Midwest, using our dollars wisely and also overcoming people who already know about these weather challenges that we all face. But we also did pre-surveys there, and these markets have a high probability of people who would be willing to move for career opportunities. So being able to target in our conversation to them about those opportunities. And I'm just going to show one quick video that highlights kind of what our campaign looks like for you. Sorry, caught him off guard, sleeping after lunch. We'll just go back one. So really, our marketing is really focusing on talking about why there's more in Wisconsin and how you can be more you in the state of Wisconsin. The slide here is going to talk about the opportunities for work-life balance with your family, and then the STEM and career opportunities that are going to go forward from theirs. We also have a number that talk about lifestyle.
With over 170,000 STEM jobs predicted by 2020 and a lower cost of living, you can experience rewarding days at work and enjoyable evenings at home. Wisconsin, it's more you.
So that's just one example from the Millennial Marketing Campaign that we have going on. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the transitioning veterans, the service members that are in our military bases. So we have partnered with Hiring Our Heroes, which is a program of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, along with our state partners at Department of Workforce Development and Department of Veterans Affairs, to attend career summits that are hosted on base for service members that are transitioning from their time in service to civilian life. This is a map of where we've have chosen to focus our attentions based on the number of service members that participate in those career summits and the likelihood that they would be looking to move elsewhere. So Japan, our team just got home from Japan, had a great response there. We were in Hawaii, Germany, and then the other locations throughout the U.S. So here's our early results. Those are photos from our team that are on site. It's everywhere from classroom style rooms to Air Force hangars to just about anything on base that might serve. These are numbers that I didn't have the Japan numbers, but I just got those right at lunch today. So event attendance, we are now at over 4,500 service members and spouses who have gone through the summits that we've been to. Our team has personally interacted with 1,100 service members and spouses during that time. And as a result of those interactions, 672 have expressed an interest in wanting to learn more about Wisconsin and the opportunities that we have here. So that's the talent pipeline that we're going to begin working on as we bring folks in. And this is a national model. There is no other state in the nation that is going to these career summits to talk about the career opportunities and the quality of life. You have businesses that are there. They're talking about employment. We're talking about everything else. You are going to come here not because you're going to live at your job, but because you're going to live in one of our great Wisconsin communities. And we have services and benefits that we want to make sure that you're aware of. And that's the message that we're selling, and then connecting them in with the employers as they go. There's different ways employers can be involved. The best thing I like about this is it doesn't matter the size of your business. You can be a partner with us. If you are a small business looking to find a way to tap into a talent pipeline, we can connect you with the resumes that we're collecting as we're going to these summits. If you have a travel budget and would like to go to one of the booths, it's free to have a booth on site, and you just need to cover your logistics, and you can go and interact directly with them. Selling your careers while we are there selling the state of Wisconsin so that it mirrors together. This is an example of some of the ads that we would then run as well, talking about that transition from service to civilian life.
Teaching your kids. Wisconsin has some of the best public schools in the U.S., so you can be as proud of them as we are of you. Wisconsin, it's more you.
So that ad was Alpha Bravo Charlie to ABC, so really connecting in on what we want to highlight as that quality of life. This is an example of an ad that we have created. You'll see above the blue banner that there's a space there that if you're looking to market to service members, this is now an asset that you could use to have that, to take forward for you. So it's a co-op marketing opportunity that we have from the state of Wisconsin to reach out to those service members, and as a business, you would have that opportunity, or a school or an organization, to make those connections. And then quickly into the Wisconsin alumni. So we are fortunate in the state of Wisconsin to have a number of great schools. This is a map that has our tech colleges, our UW system schools, and our private colleges and universities on there. And the opportunities that we have to engage with this many students and talk about retention. We do a phenomenal job with the university system of retaining our talent here and making sure that we're telling those stories of why they're here. Is a great way for us to encourage more people to continue coming forward. So this portion of our marketing is truly social media. We are targeting in those folks who are proudly saying where they are alumni from schools. This is an example of an Instagram ad that would run highlighting Michelle from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And then on our webpage at inwisconsin.com, we have several profiles of students from both the tech colleges, the private colleges and universities, and several of our UW system schools that really talk about why they chose to either stay in Wisconsin or why they chose to return. And I'm going to show you a couple of those right now.
I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2007 and moved to Washington, D.C., believing that I would be able to find more business opportunities there. But as it turns out, I was wrong. In fact, it really opened my eyes to the opportunities here in Wisconsin. I can do my business from anywhere, and I chose Wisconsin because this is a community where I can thrive with my family as well as my business.
I went to school at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and moved to Washington, D.C. for almost 3 years. I came back home to Green Bay so that I can make a greater impact and provide a service that is not otherwise available for patients in this region. My husband and I decided it would be a great place to raise a family because it's a close-knit community, it's not too big, it's not too small, and of course I have to come back home to root for my favorite team.
So these are examples that can be used both by the universities, by businesses that are trying to connect and showcase retention and potential career opportunities there. An example again of another advertisement that can be used and be co-opted to showcase logos and make those connections. If you're looking to recruit students, this might be an opportunity to showcase success of your alumni, or looking to engage with alumni. This is a resource that we have available free of charge, by the way, everybody, so let me know. We are happy to work with you on that. But then the question comes to, how do we tie all of these initiatives with the student success that we have been talking about here today? How do we make sure that we're connecting not only our students to opportunities, but that our businesses and our organizations know where they need to reach out to when they want to connect into campus? So on the UW system page, we have the Career Connect page, which lists a great portal. Click here to add text is not really supposed to be there, but you know, what we would want to do is make sure that people know that there's ways to engage. So students can use this if they want to learn how to connect externally. But more importantly, if you have a business or there's businesses in the community that are looking to connect in with our campuses, the I'm an Employer is going to connect you into, we have a list of all of the contacts in the career services offices on each campus where people can have that first step, where they can at least have a name of someone they can reach out to, and then be connected to the right resources for what they're looking for. And it's a great asset that we have as we're trying to connect with our students, especially as we start talking about what are different ways that we can grow our talent pipeline. We hear a lot about internships, the value of internships, making sure that we have ways that we can help our businesses here in the state who may not have yet started an internship program. We are currently in the process, WDC and UW System are jointly funding the development of an online internship development module. What does this mean? Is that it's going to basically be a how-to guide for businesses that have not yet started an internship program and may not have as many resources in their HR department to look into how does this go about, we're going to create an interactive online module that they can utilize as they're looking at how to make those connections. And then that's going to link them also to other resources in the state, whether it's the DWD WisConnect website, whether it's our Career Connect portal, or businesses and our students here, and connecting them in with our campus career service folks. How do we help them make those connections for what they're doing? How do we help them have a value-added internship for the student, for themselves? And that it's also about community connections. If we want to retain students, how are we helping them be retained into our communities? And this is expected to be available by the end of this calendar year, so we'll be excited to share more as that comes together. It's also about retaining our students. So again, UW system, we have over 80% that our graduates are staying here, but how are we engaging with them? Are there ways that we can continue to leverage the Think, Make, Happen in Wisconsin resources to activate our alumni here, to continue to tell that story, to use them to attract new students onto our campuses and to start new businesses here? We also talk about non-traditional student engagement. I have the opportunity later this spring to speak with our non-traditional program managers at their annual conference to talk about ways of connecting with students who are looking to reskill, who are coming at later periods in their life and are looking for ways to get connected back into the workforce, and some of the challenges that they're facing coming out as an older student, entering into the workforce market as it is now. And finally, the last thing I'd like to talk about again is we're talking with transitioning service members. Many of those are going to come because we have an amazing Wisconsin GI benefit. How are we making sure if those service members are coming and are connecting into our campuses that we have that student veteran engagement? I look forward to working with Regent Tillman on this. He's an active member of the Madison chapter of SVA. But there's different ways that we can make sure that we're connecting and understanding those challenges, those opportunities that we have to engage in that non-traditional workforce pipeline that we have on our campuses, and really making sure that we're having a shared experience at all of our campuses to take advantage of those assets. And with that, that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Regents, any questions for Rebecca? Seeing no questions, let's offer Rebecca a round of applause for her presentation. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 9 on the agenda, which is the annual presentation of the UW System's federal priorities. There are several key issues that we could anticipate that could impact the UW system in the upcoming year. They include student financial aid, the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, resources for research and development, campus safety, and Title IX. So at this time, we'll call on UW Systems Chris Andrews to present on the federal agenda, and then also know that President Cross and I will both be in Washington with Chris later this month to talk about these priorities. Chris Andrews, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, and thank you all for having me. I'm here, as John said, to talk about our federal agenda for 2019, and the agenda is in your packet and was approved by your passive review. We had many, many positive and supportive comments, and we are deeply appreciative of your endorsement, so thank you very much. Our meeting today really couldn't be more timely. We're expecting President Trump to release his budget next week. The federal government, as the state government, is a very, very valuable partner to the success of the UW system. In 2018, the University of Wisconsin system received more than $900 million from federal sources, about equal to what we receive in general purpose revenue from the state. Not factored into that calculation is loan aid from the federal government that 87% of our students use to access and complete their education. But we've learned that the president's proposed budget will likely include a 9% cut due to spending caps, as well as an additional 5% cut to non-discretionary funding, which includes funding for things like research and financial aid for our students. In the last budget, when the president proposed a similar cut, we, along with our national higher education community, successfully advocated for Congress to instead increase funding for many of the key programs that fund our operations. With hard work, we can do this again. So our work in Washington, in my opinion, is more important than ever. We recently named a Federal Relations Council to assist in designing and implementing our 2019 strategy. The council includes representation from every campus and every area of interest, from students to deans of nursing, teaching, engineering, from our chancellors and other administrators to veterans coordinators and directors of undergraduate and graduate research. And I just want to say a personal thanks to everyone who's here today who participated in the development of the agenda. It was several full days and long trips to Madison outside of their other responsibilities, so thank you very much. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 of our top 6 priorities for the UW system going forward: student aid, access, affordability, completion, innovation, research funding, and campus safety in Title IX. But I'm going to start first with a story that I think illustrates the importance of our work. As you are aware, one of President Cross's top goals is to increase enrollment in our system schools. And that's particularly challenging at a time when the population of young people is shrinking. The number of students graduating from high schools in Wisconsin has declined by 6,000 in the last decade. Although there is a silver lining in those statistics, you may have read in the State Journal this week about data captured by the UW-Madison Applied Population Lab. The data shows that for the first time, teen births fell below 4% of the total births. That decline in births has been happening over the last 10 years, and it's really been showing up in our public school population. Still, the decline in high school graduates means we need to compete harder than ever if we're going to keep outstanding students here in Wisconsin. We need to grow the population of adult student learners and attract students from around the country and the world. Last year, one of our institutions worked with a first-generation student from Chippewa Falls who scored a 33 on his ACT, top 1%. His name is Dominic. He came from a family of 5 with an adjusted gross income of $35,000. His goal is to become a chemical engineer. He is exactly the kind of student we want to keep here in Wisconsin. And going to a UW institution was high on his list. Unfortunately, we couldn't compete with the funding package he was offered elsewhere. He is now enrolled in Minnesota. So student aid from the federal government and the state has really not kept pace with inflation over the last decade. And our institutions have had to come up with more money to help bridge the gap and safeguard access to higher education for Wisconsin students. But there's only so much that we can do. We need the federal government to reinvest in our students. Right now, more than $185 million of federal funding comes to Wisconsin for students primarily in the form of grant and work-study aid, and more than $700 million in federal student loan aid. Still, our students have substantial unmet need. So let me tell you what we're doing about this issue. In the last session, despite a very tough environment and the president's proposal to cut education funds, we had some very important successes. Let me tell you briefly about a few of them. First, we achieved maximum funding for the Pell Grant, which is the single largest grant program available to undergraduates with need. The UW system has about 34,000 Wisconsin undergraduate students. About 29% of our UW student undergraduate population receiving Pell Grant funding. So this is a critical issue for us. Second, we competitively receive about $12 million in funding in TRIO and Gear Up programs, 2 programs that are critical to help ensure that Wisconsin's neediest students are prepared for college, supported with tutoring and other forms of mentoring, and able to complete their degrees. The budget provided maximum funding for TRIO and Gear Up, and will continue to advocate strongly for these programs this year. Third, Congressman Mark Pocan worked with us to include language in the 2019 appropriations bill, language that authorizes the Department of Education to fund campuses for servicing Perkins loans. As you know, we have costs associated with administering student loans, and those costs don't disappear even when the loan program ends, as the Perkins loan program did end in 2000 and was not extended in 2017. We have millions of Perkins loans still out there, and our schools have to service them. The Department of Ed is now working on this issue, and we hope to see some resolution, but we will need to continue monitoring that this year. Fourth, with the help of Congressman Glenn Grothman, we were able to amend the House version of the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. It was called the Prosper Act, with language supportive of UW's Flex Option program. While Prosper included our language, it also significantly cut programs our student depends on. So I'm happy to say that ultimately the bill was defeated. And fifth, in 2018, we told the Department of Veterans Affairs and our Wisconsin delegation that veterans' benefits for housing and tuition were being delayed. This was traced back to an update to the VA's IT system. As a result, legislation was passed that created a group of specialists at the VA tasked with fixing the erroneous payments and providing relief to benefits who experienced delays in their benefits. In this new session, reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, or HEA, is again on the table. The House and Senate are putting out competing plans, and there will be committee hearings beginning very soon. We think this may be the year we'll see a reauthorization, in part because Senator Lamar Alexander, who's chairman of the Help Committee, has announced that he will not be seeking re-election next year, and reauthorization is his priority to cement his legacy. So here are a few things we're going to be working on to include in a reauthorized HEA. One, a simplified federal application for federal student aid, or FAFSA form. There's bipartisan support for this, in part because the cumbersome application deters many students from even applying for aid that would make college more affordable for them. Two, new ways to repay student loans. Today, there are 9 different ways to pay. This is important for our graduates to streamline the number of options to repay their loans. As I said, 87% of loans by UW system students originate with the federal government. Restoring the annual cost of living increase to the Pell Grant. We've been a leading proponent on this issue, and this will be a central theme in our meetings in Washington later this month. And then renewal or replacement, a long-term solution of the Perkins Loan Program, which expired in the fall of 2017. When the program expired, it left a $20 million hole in the budgets of more than 11,000 of our students. So our message will be simple. The federal government's partnership that supports student financial aid and our workforce development programs represents a very vital investment that makes higher education affordable and accessible for all our students, and provides a career pathway for Wisconsin's workforce. We will continue to urge Congress to authorize and appropriate funding for these important priorities. Turning to innovation, this is probably my favorite. As the job market becomes more fluid, the need for college-educated adults grows. As we are demonstrating through the UW Flex Option program, and Erin, glad to see you here, with improvements in technology, the functionality of online learning platforms has improved. While everything in the delivery of education is changing, federal law has not. And we'll be working to ensure that the law reflects our reality. The language in federal statutes and regulations still assumes a traditional classroom-based approach to learning, and financial aid programs still revolve around traditional credit hours, semesters, and courses. This makes it extremely difficult for us to provide financial aid to students in UW's flexible option program, which, as the name suggests, does not revolve around traditional credit hours, semesters, and courses. The point of the flex option is to serve students who are working professionals, who want to work on a degree on their own time, at their own pace, and even to test out of subjects they already know. Our program, as you know, was the first of its kind in the nation, adopted by a public institution of higher education, and it's been a model for programs across the country. But the failure to modernize statutes and regulations is holding us back. So let me give you an example. UW-Milwaukee wants to create a new undergraduate degree in health sciences. This is a high-value degree and one that students have been asking for. In order to incorporate the flexible option, we need permission from the U.S. Department of Education. We submitted the paperwork last June. We've sought status updates multiple times, and the response is that restructuring of the UW system is bogging things down. Now, there's no way to explain that response except to say that it makes no sense. So the Department of Education is now rewriting its rules for accrediting agencies and identifying barriers to competency-based education. We anticipate that they'll finish their work in April, and we're watching those discussions closely and looking for opportunities to provide testimony, as we did when the department held hearings in Wisconsin last September. We're also working to secure an invitation to testify before the House Education and Labor Committee at one hearing that will focus on educational innovation. We've discussed this with our delegation, and they are helping us with this request. The reauthorization of the Higher Education Act is now 5 years overdue. Both the Senate and House are undertaking significant efforts this year to update the law. As they do that, we will be working with the respective committees to include language that defines competency-based education in federal statute, which is critical to the 37 million people across America with some credit but no degree, and critical to solving America's future workforce challenges. Our next priority, research funding. Federal funding for research and development continues to be the lifeblood of economic growth for Wisconsin and the nation. In 2018, UW system received $600 million from federal sources for research and development, but certainly not but mostly, but not exclusively, to UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee. Later, you will hear from UW's Regent Scholars. Some of them are either doing their work or hope to do their work with federal funding. In the last session, despite deep cuts proposed by the President, Congress gave significant increases to the agencies that provide most of our federal funding: NIH, NSF, the Departments of Agriculture and Energy, NOAA, Sea Grant, and NASA. We also sought and received robust funding for one of our key priorities, capacity building. Senator Tammy Baldwin and her staff worked with us to approve a $5 million appropriation for the non-land-grant Colleges of Agriculture Capacity Building Program, which is part of the Farm Bill. This is a program designed to help develop a skilled workforce in several industries: agriculture, food, and renewable resources. UW River Falls and UW Platteville have benefited significantly with substantial new funding for undergraduate education, research, and outreach as a result of this investment. UW River Falls, for example, has been able to invest more than $500,000 in a program to evaluate both the benefits and the barriers to restoring farmland to its native state. This is important to the health of a nearby trout stream that's vital to the local economy. They've got students working with landowners in the valley to assess what's possible and come up with a plan. We are hoping to see more of the campuses starting and expanding programs with these funds. We also secured an important amendment to the Farm Bill to allow universities like UW-Stevens Point to compete for non-land grant capacity building funds. In the past, they were excluded from the program because they received other research funds from a program called McIntyre-Stennis, which enables forestry research. President Trump signed that change into law in December. In the next Congress, we will work on the following: opposing proposed cuts to federal R&D, supporting an investment in capacity building within the non-land grant Colleges of Agriculture capacity building program I just mentioned. It was reauthorized in 2018, but it's never been funded in the President's budget, and it's critical to helping our universities that aren't research powerhouses to tap into federal funding so they can build research projects that give students a hands-on learning experience. We will be advancing some reasonable changes to a program called EPSCoR, the established program to stimulate competitive research, to make our system schools eligible for EPSCoR funding. Right now, eligibility is based on a 3-year average of total NSF dollars a state receives. So in states like Wisconsin, with powerhouse research universities that receive major NS funding, the smaller campuses are out of luck. We believe that reasonable changes can be made to create access for those institutions and bring federal funding to all jurisdictions of Wisconsin. Finally, we want to think about ways to promote water research at UW-Milwaukee and more UW campuses. The Great Lakes hold 18% of all the fresh water in the world. This is an extraordinarily valuable economic and ecological resource. In fact, fresh water has been called the new oil. So we will continue to urge full funding for our existing programs and think through how we can leverage our water resources to expand education and research in an area that's going to continue to grow in regional, national, and worldwide importance. Finally, we're paying very close attention to an issue that's of deep importance to all our campuses, campus safety and compliance with Title IX requirements. The U.S. Department of Education has proposed a rule addressing campus safety by clarifying what is required of Title IX. As you know, the UW system submitted comments regarding the proposal. We really took a practitioner approach so that we could provide the Department of Ed with our best thinking about how this rule should be revised, and we believe that Congress will and can as well address some of these issues through HEA reauthorization. So I would like to end on a personal note. Some of you might have seen the Gallup poll that came out in January. It's the annual poll about America's most trusted and least trusted professions. And Quinn, it's not lawyers. Nurses were at the very top, as they pretty much are absolutely every year and should be. Trial lawyers didn't fare quite as well. And members of Congress and the media, well, they had pretty dismal showing. But Drew, at the rock bottom of the list is our profession. Only 8% of respondents said they trusted lobbyists. So what I want to say is that I've been very fortunate in my career to serve in leadership roles, working for a Wisconsin governor, 2 members of Congress. I coordinated a congressional caucus of 50 members, and I helped to start a very major foundation. But nothing in my career has been more satisfying than the 17 years I have had leading the UW system. It's a privilege every day to lobby on behalf of this well-regarded system. When you walk into a room in DC and you say you're with the UW system, it's almost like that insurance commercial where, you know, everything stops. And an institution that changes lives every day. And it's enormously satisfying to see us move the needle on some of these important issues. So I want to say a few thanks to my team, Jennifer Wickman, our special assistant, who also staffs Dave Bruckert in the Ready Committee, and David Speck-Boardman. He's a government relations staff specialist who staffs both state and federal relations. And I also work very closely with all the federal relations at each of our campuses, where we have a great team as well. Over the past year, my staff and I have developed a bi-monthly newsletter, which I hope you're getting. If you're not, please let me know. We've established the Federal Relations Council, which we hope will continue to meet throughout the year and continue to provide us advice. We produced this agenda. We've written testimony for hearings before federal agencies and for White House listening sessions. We've analyzed the President's federal budget and the Tax Cut and Jobs Act for impacts on students and institutions. I regularly travel to DC with UW stakeholders and meet regularly with our congressional delegation staff and other members of Congress who sit on influential committees that are pertinent to our agenda. I sit on numerous federal councils to advance our visibility and work. And we do our best to provide support to our campus federal relations activities. We meet with the chancellors and our legislative liaisons and public information officers and their research offices and undergraduate research directors to keep them apprised of federal issues and research opportunities. So in closing, what I want to say is I'm very proud of our small but very fierce team and grateful for the opportunity to serve UW system. I am optimistic that there will be a degree of bipartisan consensus about the future of our country, and that many of the proposals in the Federal Relations Council has identified as important will find success in the 116th Congress. And I have one last ask of you, which is, I need your voice, and we need your voice in advocating for these goals and priorities. So when you get the chance, please do. Please call me. Please, when you see your federal officials, let them know that you're here and on the board and that we have a very important federal agenda. And finally, I very much look forward to President Bailing, President Cross, many of our chancellors. There's still time to sign up, meeting with our delegation and staff at the end of the month. So sincere thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great report. Before we excuse Chris, are there any questions for her board members? It looks like you're good to go. Thanks again, Chris. Great report. Moving on to item number 10, Regent Scholar Grant Awards. The UW System Regent Scholar Program provides prestigious one-time grants to individual faculty or campus programs that undertake undergraduate research projects with the potential to foster innovation and talent development. Today, we'll get to recognize 4 recipients of this year's grant awards. And President Cross, the floor is yours.
The Regent Scholar Program, which was formally introduced in 2014-15, is designed to stimulate faculty-student collaborative research. All UW system campuses are eligible. Past grant recipients have helped to advance knowledge and actually build businesses in a variety of fields. We're pleased to continue this tradition of innovation and entrepreneurial excellence today by recognizing our 2019 grant recipients. Before we do, I would like to acknowledge the evaluators who helped select our 4 recipients from a field of candidates from across UW's system institutions. I would also like to thank WISIS, which managed the evaluation process for us this year. In particular, I want to thank Jennifer Cook, who is with us today. Jennifer, thank you. Our evaluators included entrepreneurs, technical experts, and academic specialists in a variety of fields. You can see a list of their names and affiliations on the screen. I will now turn the program over to Regent Mark Tyler, who chaired the Regent Scholar Selection Committee. Regent Tyler.
Thank you, President Cross. I'm going to go off formal comments just for a minute and say one of the most enjoyable parts of being a regent is when we have the opportunity to recognize staff and faculty and programs for their exceptional work, because reality is they're the ones that deliver on our promise for providing exceptional education to our students. So what's even better than being able to recognize them is to provide them a check and say, okay, do some more, which is what we're doing today. So So I'm pleased to present our 2019 Regent Scholar Grant recipients. Their work represents the highest recognition for projects that support the best of academic scholarship, research, and community service. The Regent Scholar Awards were developed by the board's Ready Committee based on input from faculty, staff, and business leaders in listening sessions in 2013-14 in a committee led by Dean Van Galen, the Chancellor from River Falls, and the chair of the WISIS Advisory Board. I'll briefly highlight the program goals of the Regent Scholar Initiative. There's 4 key aspects: providing summer funding support for faculty to engage in research and other scholarly activities, promoting on-hands research experience and internships for undergraduate students, thus preparing them for a high-quality workforce, stimulating research across all of the UW system campuses, ultimately driving regional economic development, and recognizing superior faculty achievements at the Board of Regents level in the areas of undergraduate research and in the STEM disciplines and creative arts. So now I'll turn the program over to Regent Eve Hall, who chairs the Ready Committee.
Thank you, Regent Tyler. I can't tell you how pleased we are to showcase our 2019 Scholar Award recipients today, and I did have a sneak preview and I spoke with them a little bit earlier. We will now see video highlights of our grant winners. After each video concludes, I would invite each scholar to please come forward to receive your award from UW System President Ray Cross, our UW Regent President John Bailing, and me. Our first recipient is Dr. Yi Jun Tung. He is Associate Professor of Analytical Chemistry at UW Oshkosh. His area of research focus is medical technology. Dr. Tung's project is titled Enzyme-Free Glucose Sensors Composed of Molecularly Imprinted Polymers and Nano-Sized Metal Particles. I'm really glad I am not asked to explain what that really means. These new glucose sensors have greater stability and effectiveness than the standard enzyme-based blood testing strips. They also last longer, are more accurate, and more durable than current strips. Additionally, this product could be used to monitor glucose in other bodily fluids, which would be too harsh for enzyme strips, or to test samples in food production. Video, please.
My name is Yijun Tan, an Associate Professor of Analytical Chemistry from UW Oshkosh. This project, we hope we can find my name is Yijun Tan, an Associate Professor of Analytical Chemistry from UW Oshkosh. This project, we hope we can find new materials that can replace enzymes that are used in glucose sensors right now. This will have impact on people's lives significantly, considering the large demand for the daily glucose detection devices. We find that the most glucose detection devices right now are all enzyme-based, and we know that enzymes have some limitations in terms of versatility, reusability, stability, and we want to replace it with some new materials. We hope we can cooperate with some business in the future. The product we are working on, we expect it to be reliable and reusable and robust. So that means we can try to combine it with other types of sensors. So that means we can monitor many substances with only one device, so that the overall cost can be lowered. We hope this one will benefit those people who need to do glucose monitoring every day.
All right, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Tan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, I want to thank the system and also the selection committees for selecting me to be one of the Regent Scholars. It is a great honor for me. I would also like to thank my campus, UW-Oshkosh, and for the constant and the strong support. After I had the idea of this innovation, I got support from the UW-Oshkosh Faculty Development Program almost immediately. And in the following year, I received support from YSYS Technology Foundation. So Jennifer Cooker from YSYS is down there. So I want to thank YSYS as well. And next, I want to thank my research students, past and present. Without them, I would not be able to make progress as I am making now. And last but not the least, I want to thank all of you here for celebrating this successful Regent Scholars Program. Thank you.
Phenomenal work, thank you. Our second Regent Scholar is Dr. Gokul Gopal Ukrishnan. I hope I'm okay. All right, I got thumbs up, so. Okay. He is an assistant professor of engineering physics at UW-Platteville, and his area of focus is biotechnology. His project, a rapid customizable technique for pathogen separation and biomolecular detection, is focused on developing a new technology for the rapid and simultaneous separation and concentration of different types of microscopic biological materials by size and shape, such as proteins, viruses, and bacteria. Such a system comprised of multi-filter stacks of silicon porous nanomembranes can be used for field testing of groundwater contamination, as well as separation of nanoscale biological samples in the lab. Video, please.
My name is Gokul Gopalakrishnan. Most people know me as Gopal. And I am a faculty here at UW-Platteville in the engineering physics department. So what we're developing here is, fundamentally it's what you'd call a platform technology, which means it's a new capability that could see applications in different areas, like developing a new generation of electronic devices. And that's on one end of the spectrum. But on the completely other end of the spectrum, you could be able to detect, for instance, different kinds of pathogens from groundwater, for instance. And we could develop portable water testing kits that give you rapid answers to what different kinds of pathogens there are in a sample of groundwater. My primary collaborator on this project is Mark Levenstein from the biology department here at UW-Platteville.
I see a place for these in cancer research, and so I like to imagine a filter that Gokul can build to do a quick determination on what type of cancer someone might have and to what degree they have that cancer, to help you both determine the appropriate treatment as well as a medicational regimen for it.
Because there's different possible applications, there's different possible businesses that could grow, and we can have businesses involved with making microscopic sensors, in making microcircuitry and microelectronic devices, to businesses that do things like separation of biological systems. Microbial testing would be another kind of business that could grow out of this.
Dr. Gopal.
Hello, everyone. So I'm excited to be here and to start work on this new exciting project. I was planning to talk a little bit about it, but I think you get the gist now. So I'll just thank a few different groups of people that have been instrumental in getting where we are right now. First of all, the students that I work with. Got a great team of super motivated, really dedicated group of students, and none of this would be anywhere near possible without all these students. And I'm glad that we've gotten to the point where they're starting to recognize, especially in a department such as mine, which is an engineering department, a lot of students do not necessarily graduate and go on to grad school. They're not really looking at research as a career building opportunity for them. And I think we're starting to see now that they see these sort of cross-platform benefits of engaging in research projects, and how employers of different parts of the spectrum recognize the benefits that come from working on a research project, and whether it's hard skills like creative thinking, using modern equipment, to soft skills like communication, right? How do you talk to a group of people about a technical problem, working in groups? There's a whole load of benefits, and I'm starting to feel happy about the fact that students are recognizing this, and they're gaining from it, and that's very exciting. Secondly, I'd like to thank the offices at the University of Wisconsin at Platteville, starting from the Chancellor's office, the Provost's office, and the office of the Dean of the College of Engineering, Math, and Science. All been really supportive, especially in the last few years. I think there's been an increase in momentum to promote research and other innovative and creative activities. And I think we're starting to see the benefit of that, so I'm really thankful for the support. I'd also like to thank the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs at UW-Platteville, who've been really helpful and very supportive as well. Let's see, I've got collaborators in Madison, Eau Claire, Parkside, really good collaborators, and lots of cool work happens with students and faculty across the system. And I'm glad we exist as a system, and I think we should do more as a system and do more to foster these collaborations. I think they're really valuable. I would like to thank the UW system, WISES Technology Foundation. Jennifer's here. Jennifer Arjun, Tony Hansen, who is our regional associate for the southern part of the state, and Alicia, all been really helpful. WISES has been a constant source of support, helping with patent applications, helping with commercialization pathways. I'm really grateful for all the help from WISES. And I would also like to acknowledge a UW system grant that was sort of recently started, the Water Fellows program, which is this idea to foster collaborative research across system schools. And I think that's a step in the right direction. I'd love to see more of that happening. And lastly, I'd like to thank the Board of Regents and the READY Committee for what you've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. Great initiatives coming out of this committee, and really appreciate the honor and the opportunity to work on this project. Thank you.
Okay. Another great example of intellectual capital in our system. The final 2 Regent Scholar recipients worked jointly on their project, titled Empirically Examining the Source Code Security and Vulnerabilities in General Purpose Software Systems. This multi-campus collaborative program helps software instructors better design and plan training courses and curriculum that provide secure coding practices for undergraduate students and software developers. The first half of this collaborative intercampus team is Dr. Sally Naale. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science at UW-Stout. His research effort focuses on software security and addresses source code vulnerabilities through the application of automatic parallelization and multi-core programming, the Internet of Things, and static analysis approaches. The second half of the Regent Scholar collaboration team is Dr. Said Al-Tadhat. He is an assistant professor of computer science and director of the widely known and increasingly popular App Factory at UW Parkside. Dr. Al-Tadhat's research is focused on embedded software, software engineering, mobile and web apps, and agile methodologies. His work makes for a better collaboration with his student partners at UW-Stout under Dr. Anali's faculty support. Video, please.
My name is Zaid Al-Tahat. I'm a faculty in the Computer Science Department at UW Parkside, and the title of my project is the Detection of Software Vulnerabilities in Applications. Primarily, this project is in collaboration with a professor from UW-Stout. His name is Dr. Salih.
I'm Dr. Naili. I'm assistant professor of computer science in the computer science and math static department. I work for UW-Stout. Our goal is to help educate our students and our colleagues from other institutions and within our UW system, of course, and hopefully within the whole research community in how to write high-quality programs that won't introduce any vulnerabilities or security issues to their everyday systems.
Building a more reliable, secure software will impact almost everybody these days. We use software on a daily basis. An hour doesn't pass by without having, use the technology in one way or another.
Our long-term goal is to allow some of our students to establish some business that is going to be concerned in writing tools and software systems that can be used by, big companies to make sure that their software systems are secure.
And it's not just a matter of convenience. I teach my students in my class, I tell them software kills. So if we do not build a reliable software, many incidents happen where patients died from a malfunctioning medical device. Crashes happen because the software malfunctioned in a car, and planes crashed because software malfunctioned. So software does kill. So the fact that we give more attention to these issues like security is one of the main aspects of our software, is that we will have a much more reliable, much more safe life to live.
All right. Drs. Anali and Al-Tahat, please come forward.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, President Cross, respected Board of Regents. I'm very delighted, I'm very excited to be here today to represent my campus, UW-Stout, all of my students within the UW system. I've been working with students across multiple campuses. I would love to acknowledge their support. They have done a great job representing our UW system in many international conferences. We were awarded multiple times. All the credit should go to them because they are the hard worker people and students who made us present here today. I really want to thank them. I also would like to thank our community, our students, our colleagues from other campuses, especially UW Parkside. We've been having fun together. Our students have a lot of stories to share. Maybe in the future they're going to share their stories with you. So on behalf of my students, my research teams, colleagues, I would love to, or I'm very honored to accept this award. Our project has multiple objectives. The first one is the quality and the bright future we're planning to build and help our students to have. And we believe that via your support and through this project, our students will have opportunity to work in real life or on real life problems that will help them gain real experience that will shape their future, especially the professional future and the job opportunities. And the second one, we're hoping to help our citizen, hopefully potentially the whole world, to solve some of the security and problems relevant to cybersecurity and software engineering quality. Again, I'm very delighted. I'm very honored to be here today. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Let me get my notes. I have a lot of things to talk about. First, I'm very honored and pleased to be here. I don't really expect it to be so great. I honestly was very, very happy and very proud to be here. The provost, Dokaf, yesterday sent an email to the campus, and I get my inbox filled with congratulations and the award. Now I have to respond to everybody. I'd like to thank the board, President Cross, for this award, and also to thank Chancellor Ford for all the support, the provost at Parkside. They really give extensive support. WISES has been very helpful for us. We have 4 or 5 projects we're working on for WISES. WISES really keeping us very busy. And I'm also here to collect the check, Regent Tyler. So I won't take too much of your time, so if you bear with me just for 20 minutes. So I just want to share with you a short story. One of the students who worked on the project, his name is Elliot, and some of the things he told me he has learned just by working on this project. I'm just going to list a few of the things that he mentioned to me, that he has learned how to research a problem, how to read literature and papers related to this field, to this problem. He learned on identifying a solution, designing and implementing a cloud-based solution, and Amazon AWS integrating with GitHub. He learned write a technical paper, which I think something we should, as teachers, we should emphasize on with our students. That's the feedback I get from the industry. He has learned on presenting the findings at IEEE conference that was attended by other PhD students from prestigious research universities presenting at the same conference that our students presenting at. And I just want to remind you that this is an undergrad research project. And this is not the only success story. I have so with Elliot, let me finish with Elliot, because I have 5 more to go. So, no, just 1 more. But with Elliot, he graduated in December. And within weeks, he accepted an offer from Nike, working with Nike. And the lady from the staffing company called me
and she said, I need more people like Elliot. She said all the employers that interviewed Elliot extended an offer to him. And I want more people like this. So I told her, just wait till I get the grant and I'll get you more people like that. I have another student who worked on a different project during the same time. He worked on a network project, modifying a routing algorithm for the network devices. And he has that project in his resume, and he was snatched by Motorola. So right after he graduated, you have experience coming out of undergrad with an undergrad degree with research projects and publications in fields that Motorola is interested in, and Nike is interested in, and other employers are interested in. And all this effort was done in collaboration, and we do this a lot. We did this with Stout. I have another project that I'm doing with Superior. Today I was at a client meeting with the professor from UW Superior, with a client in Brookfield, their manufacturing company, and they want us to help them build a small embedded device over a Bluetooth mesh network and build a cloud-based platform for all these devices to push their data to. So I'm really very pleased and very happy to have received this award. I won't take too much more of your time. I just want to thank everybody in this room for all this encouragement. I'm really very happy to have received this award. Thank you so much.
So would all four of our scholars please stand again just so we can recognize you? We are so fortunate to have you as our scholar faculty in this. So we are proud of your work. I'm proud of my pronunciation today, quite frankly. I feel like I was being under the test, so I'm glad I had that test versus doing the work that you do. Phenomenal work. Thank you again. Uh-oh. Thank you. We apologize. Well, thank you again, scholars, one and all, including those faculty and staff from campuses across the UW system whose ideas were evaluated. We weren't able to recognize them here today, but we valued them. Our vision is for the Regent Scholar Program and for this culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, creativity, intellectual capital to be captured and to continue to grow across our UW system. We look forward to hearing more about the good work that each of you is doing with students and with business and community collaborators as your projects move forward, and we hope to count you among our grant recipients in future years. Again, thanks to everyone who has participated, and we're just so fortunate, proud, and blessed to have you as part of our UW system. Thank you again.
Thank you, Regent Hall. The final item on today's agenda is a resolution to amend the board's bylaws. According to the Association of Governing Boards of Universities, bylaws are one of the primary documents that guide the governance of a university system. AGB recommends that governing boards review their bylaws regularly. Regent Vice President Peterson and I have undertaken a review of the board's bylaws and are recommending several changes as described in your materials. To start the discussion, I would accept a motion to adopt resolution number 11.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Board members, questions, comments, or discussion on resolution number 11?
I have one. Are we talking about the regular meetings?
Yes, Regent Milner.
I've got one question about this. What we've been doing is making the decision and then contacting the executive committee, or is that practice going to continue?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Regents? If not, unless I have any objections, Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and thank you. Item number 12, in our last matter, are there any communications, petitions, or memorials, Regents? If not, Just Lathrop has the details on tonight's reception at 4:30. Hopefully you can all join me. Chancellor Blank has promised us a win tonight. And with that, we are adjourned, and go Badgers. Thank you.